I was listening to the Pope's comments on Vatican News about the African Church being a special case as regards the reception of Cardinal Fernandez's declaration Fiducia Supplicans. I wasn't going to comment on this, but when I went to adoration this evening, I asked our Lord, should I speak about this? Is there something that I can add to this? And I asked him for a sign, basically. And at that very moment, my phone started ringing, and I saw it was a priest from Africa, a priest from Uganda. And, it was actually, when I was thinking today, I was thinking of St. Charles Luanga in all of this debate. The thing is, when you talk about these things, what the Pope says, even in a charitable way, you get a lot of kickback that you're dividing the church. And some priests say this to me: you're dividing the church, you don't know anything, where's your degree in theology? You're just a hater, you're traditional, you're too this way leaning, and so forth. Why are you focusing on it? I mean, I didn't invent this news topic. I didn't release this declaration. The pout of all of this is controlled by Cardinal Fernandez and by the Pope. They've decided to introduce this discussion into the church. So, and if they have introduced this discussion into the church, then, the universal call to holiness and Lumen Gentium, well, the church should also hear what lay Catholics have to say. I may not have a doctorate in theology, but I do have some education as regards to the limits of the authority of the Pope, and certainly to the limits of the authority of any cardinal. So my thoughts were immediately on hearing the church say that the church in Africa is a special case, un caso speciale. When there was this whole debate back in 2018 in Ireland about abortion, a lot of people were shook in the church, and a lot of us turned to the traditional movement to try and get some support, because we couldn't understand why so many bishops had apostatized in Ireland at the time. In the sense that, we'd say, well, you're coming to the March to Life, will you come to this? Are you going to canvass? Are you going to get involved? And, most of them didn't. We would have lots of religious of a certain congregation getting involved, but we saw the Irish Priest Association saying they couldn't be dogmatic on abortion. And so, no, they issued statements, but they didn't get involved. Now, maybe we were holding expectations too high at the time. So a lot of Catholics in Ireland that loved the faith, that were involved in the pro-life movement, we turned to the Society of St. Pius X, who, for example, held a conference in Dublin at the time, brought over Jan and Yes, and were very involved. For a tiny movement in Ireland, the amount of funding and the amount of involvement in the pro-life movement, it was important. And at the time, as much as I liked the traditional movement, I also loved the church to such an extent. I didn't want to be dividing myself to try and say, okay, do I lend all of my support to this, or do I look to try and renew the church, to work with bishops, for example, in Ireland, to renew the faith? Because the church is hierarchical. If there's one thing that I was taught in seminary, is that the church is hierarchical. We can't work outside the structures of the Pope and our bishops. Otherwise, we end up creating another church. We become Protestants, like it or not. So it's within this hierarchical church where we'll be challenging one another that we should look to renew the faith. We should look to work together to renew the faith. But I suppose in the midst of this discussion, on the one side, we have the traditional movement, the SSPX in Ireland, which would be the largest of them. And on the other side, we have the hierarchical church in Ireland. And in a lot of discussions, I've said to people, do you not think that we've made an error after Second Vatican II? Do you not think Vatican II has added to the cause of the decline of the faith in the West? Do you not think Second Vatican II helped cause this? And among a lot of that discussion, people were saying, don't look, Robert, Africa, look at Africa, look at all the fruits from Second Vatican II in Africa. Look how well received the Mass is in Africa. Look at the growing Catholic population in Africa. Look, I can't imagine, you don't know how many times Africa has been held up as an example of the good implementation of Second Vatican II, with a growing church where people love the faith, love the Pope, etc., etc., etc. Okay, Africa, Asia, and some other countries, whereas we look in South America, one of the fastest growing religion is Protestantism. We look in the fall off in the faith in America, where most Catholics don't believe in the Eucharist. We look at Europe. I mean, Europe is a basket case. It really is. Europe is a basket case as far as Catholicism. I mean, stronghold of Catholicism, we have just relinquished it. I mean, there are more LGBT rainbow flags in Catholic secondary schools in Ireland than statues of Our Lady. Little fact that's not known. I counted them in one school. There are more LGBT rainbow flags than statues of Our Lady. Because in our Catholic schools, our kids wouldn't know how to pray a rosary if you handed them one. They wouldn't know, because nobody showed them. It's not that's the extent of the apostasy of our faith in Ireland, that we not only passed abortion. People don't realise what happened in 2018 in Ireland. We didn't just pass abortion; we celebrated it. We went from 2,000 abortions to 10,000 abortions. We celebrated it. It was more popular than gay marriage. Think about it. Killing a child in Ireland is more popular than gay marriage. All of these things impact people. Say, what has happened? Where is the leadership? How could you have allowed this to happen? How could we have allowed this to happen? And now this broader debate, which has happened over the last month. It's been 5 weeks. We got a document released that Cardinal Fernandez said no further declaration is going to be given on this document. No further a document that was released with no consultation with the world's bishops, no involvement of the synodal process. Document gets released. Then he has to do a far larger explanation, and then the Pope has been defending it for the last 5 weeks. And today he stepped in to say, well, the African Church's rejection is because they're a special case. Because they don't accept what we accept in the West. We in the West, we accept the fact that we have hospitals now where you send your kids to be sterilised. It's true. There are hospitals, Tavistock in the UK, for example, where kids can go to be sterilised. We have hospitals where you can go to kill yourself. Euthanasia in many countries in Europe. Switzerland, Canada. We have hospitals now where you can go to kill your own baby. This is what we've had to accept. Sit back. We have a multi-billion-dollar porn industry, which a lot of people forget has a lot of their headquarters in Ireland. This is what we accept. I don't know. I don't think people have kind of realised how far the frog has been boiled to such an extent that we are now looking at Africa and saying, oh, you're a special case because you don't accept all of these values, Western values. And I was just thinking today, I don't know why it was coming to mind when it was in adoration, but it was 1 Corinthians 5. Have you ever, I don't know if people have read 1 Corinthians 5. Most Catholics haven't heard about this chapter because it doesn't actually appear in the new lectionary. But it might kind of shock you, for today's culture. Because, St. Paul is calling out the fact that it is actually reported that there is sexual immorality among you, and the kind not even tolerated among the pagans. For a man has his father's wife. For a man has his father's wife. Are you arrogant? Ought you not rather to mourn? Let him who has done this be removed from among you. Oh my gosh, this is very tough, St. Paul. What else does he say? Do not even eat with such a one at the end of the chapter. Who's he talking about? Do not even eat with such a one. Sexual immorality, greed, idolater, reveler, drunkard, or swindler. Do not even eat with such a one. I mean, if you were to compare St. Paul, what he's writing here, with how we actually live today, what we tolerate today. This is what we tolerate in our Western society. In Ireland, we celebrated abortion. Ireland is so advanced now. We spend 500 million on pets. And we kill 10,000 kids a year in the womb. We spend 5 billion euros in Ireland on alcohol, tobacco, cocaine, marijuana, all this class of drugs. It's 5 billion a year spent on this in Ireland. We're so advanced now that if you were to actually hold up St. Paul, I wonder what St. Paul would actually say about our Catholic society. Because St. Paul was writing to the baptized. And, now we have a church in Africa, which is a special case, that doesn't welcome what we have permitted in our society, doesn't welcome the culture we have permitted, doesn't spend a whole month going around with flags, putting up flags everywhere. I mean, I suppose the question I'm asking in the midst of all of this, if Africa is the shining light of the implementation of Vatican II, the fruit of Vatican II, both in the liturgy and in the growth, if you're going to hold Africa up as the fruits of Vatican II in the church, then you're either saying a positive statement, or you're either giving us a truth or not. So what is the truth here? On the one hand, for 10 years I've been listening, yeah, Robert, don't be focused on Ireland. Ireland's a special case. It'll take a few generations to get fixed up, blah, blah, blah. Look at Africa. Look at the developing world. See, it's working over there. See, it's working. And then with this document, no, Africa's a special. They don't tolerate the Western values. They don't tolerate what the West tolerates. I think we've walked down the line so far. We've just, step by step apostatized to the faith. Step by step. We have gone so far down the line. Like, what will be next? When they introduce euthanasia into Ireland, we'll be there. Sure. What can we do? Next month, they're spending 20 million here in Ireland next month. 20 million euros to remove motherhood and families from the Constitution. They're going to replace families with durable relationships. Durable relationships could be an Algerian with a third wife. Durable relationship could be, as the Electoral Commission said in Ireland, a durable relationship could be somebody who sends a postcard to his mistress at Christmas. That's what a durable relationship could be. This is where we have ultimately arrived to. We have put the frog in the pot, filled it with cold water, and been slowly boiling it to such an extent that it's dead. Every single bishop that supported that document that Pope Francis has issued, every single bishop is a pastor over a dying church, a dying diocese. Every single bishop. Go and do your maths. Every single bishop that is enthusiastically has come out and supported that fiducia supplicans is the administrator of a dying diocese. Every single German bishop that came out supporting it is the administrator of a dying diocese. There has no growth, no vocations. Your religious communities are dying. Every single one of them. What's the point in having the faith if we can't pass it to the next generation? What are we doing? What are the priorities in the church? Most people don't believe in the Eucharist. we've a crisis of catechism. Oh, priorities in the church now are, well, I'm the new prefect of the doctrine of the faith. The priorities in the church are what are the priorities? What are the church's priorities now? Well, we've had 2 years of synod and synodality, and I have this bright idea. Let's run this document by the new synod. Oh no, we don't want to get them involved. No. We'll just publish it ourselves. We'll create a small commission. Who is on the commission with Cardinal Fernandez? How is this document prepared? That has created such utter confusion in the church. When, before this document, a priest could bless everybody. Nobody was excluded from priest blessing. Nobody. No sinner was excluded from a priest blessing. No sinner. And we're all sinners. We're all sinners. So that's the sad thing. But then there's the truth of the faith that we're supposed to align our life with. The truths, because I was catechized, you have the truth of your faith. If you read in the gospel, read the New Testament, read St. Paul, these truths are supposed to call you to a conversion of life. But anyway, I wonder where the church is going. So it's out of love I give this feedback. Maybe some odd cardinal or bishop can give me some feedback on this as a blogger that loves the church. As I said, for years people have held up Africa as a model child for the implementation of Second Vatican II. Model child. And all of a sudden, no, they're a special case. They're either model children or special case. So we're not special. But they are special. Seems like we've divided the church. I don't know. God bless you. Take care. Bye-bye.